Hello, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. This is Joe Krygier. We are representing A Rage to Live, Surviving the Holocaust so Hitler Would Not Win. For those of you who have purchased a copy of the book that I've co-authored with Victor Breitberg, I want you to meet today another person who was very influential in seeing the book come to its final phase of production, and that is D.K. Lubarsky. Diana is a sculptress. And with her kind permission and collaboration, we have a cover on our book that is representative of her work. We have other photographs of her work within the pages of the book, and the photographs of her sculptures that we chose to use in the book are very significant in that we've used particular ones to help move the narrative of the story along. The ones that we chose, I felt, gave a sense of what the entire chapter or even section of the book was about, and that those particular photographs of her sculptures represented the essence of the narrative. So we did something a little bit different in a biography that you normally don't see, the way we've illustrated it with these particular photographs of Diana's sculptures. So I'm going to be talking to her a little bit about her work, how she came to begin doing these works, what influenced her and so on, what were her inspirations, and the success that she has had with them has been rather well known in certain circles. And we're really rejoicing and having a very good time as part of that right here in St. Petersburg, Florida, where, believe it or not, after having collaborated on the illustrative part of the book for a number of months before publication, we did it all without ever having a face-to-face meeting. The new era, right? We did it all by telephone call and email. And so it was a joy and a privilege for me and my wife, Deborah, to be here with Diana and her husband, who's with us today also, Elliot, and to meet them for the first time here in St. Petersburg, and having spent the better part of the morning and early afternoon at the Holocaust Museum, seeing the pieces in 3D. All I can say is it's been an absolutely wonderful experience to me, a special experience to me, a highlight of the book being out there in public, to see the actual works, but to meet the one who is so kind to collaborate with us on our book. So I'm going to ask Diana a couple of questions. First of all,
yes,
take us back to the beginning, your first ideas and inspiration for the very first piece and how that came about.
Well, it took me a long time to be able to speak to that subject, because it's a quirky story. But first of all, before we do that, I just want to say for the record how wonderful it is to finally meet you. So I'm very delighted to be here. As far as the first pieces, I'm a rather normal, mundane kind of person. House, home, husband, children, dogs, cats, that kind of thing. Except I seem to have this little quirky part in my brain, and I started just having images of the Holocaust. The question most people ask me, are you Jewish? Yes, I am. The second question I'm asked is, did you lose friends or relative in the Holocaust? No, I did not. Most of our family came over in the early 1900s, before World War II. And when they did, at that point, I'm sure there were certain relatives that were left behind, but we did not know them. I heard rumors of one cousin, but there was no actual family. We were ensconced in the United States by that time. Somewhere in the 1970s, mid to late 1970s, I started waking up having dreams. And the dreams were of the Holocaust. Why they started, how they started, I don't know. I've always been a tactile person, physical therapy, baking, massaging, working with clay, but little kind of making little odds and ends, bowls, dishes. And then these images started coming, and I was very hesitant to tell anybody what I was doing, and the first piece I started to make it. And I knew what I was doing, but I wouldn't even tell the person that I was working in class with. I'd say, oh, I don't know, I'm just kind of making things. And I finished this piece on Holocaust. And I looked at it, and I don't know why I did it, and I hurried up, wrapped it up, stuck it in a box, and threw it in my basement. And about a month or two after that, another image seared through my mind, and the same thing happened. And this went on for the better part of a year. And one day, for what reason, I don't recall, but we needed the space or something, and at that point, I had a spare room, and I took them out of the boxes or the corners where I had hidden them, and I just lined them all up in order of what I had done. I had 7 pieces at that point. And I said, oh my God, they told a story. One that I was not aware of until I looked at them. I had never seen them together before. Freaked me out.
Yeah.
So I went on a binge of talking to various people and trying to see if I could figure out why I was doing this, and how to change it, and if I change it, and what was going on in my brain. Nobody could give me any answers. People wanted me to go into regression therapy. I said, no, thank you very much. I said, if I was there at all, I don't want to go back. And I just put it aside. And periodically, I came to call these images the people in my head. And I would just make the pieces and put them in boxes.
Now with those, the images, the ideas, the conception of seeing the finished work, did that develop in the course of time of doing the work, or did you kind of have a sense right from the beginning? I know the beginning and the end of this piece already. I just have to, it's there, and now I just have to do it. It's going to flow from here to here, and I know exactly where it's going.
Exactly. It was complete, with the title, everything.
With the titles too.
It was as if, the only way I could describe it would be if you're walking down the street and somebody comes out of a corner and just hits you with a baseball bat. It's like, oh my God.
Sure.
And there it is. And then you have a choice to do it or not to do it. So I could do this. To me, I wasn't creating them. They were created. I was jotting them down in clay. I was just writing something that was already there, only in this case, sculpting something that was already there.
Right. It's like a good author sometimes. Some authors, when they're writing is very hard for them. But when the story, whatever form it is, whether it's historic narrative, novel, whatever, when it really begins to have its life, it almost is like it's writing itself. It's like,
Yeah, I've heard this from other people later on. I didn't know this early in my art career. That people in music, in writing, in sculptures and paintings, that there are people that say this image comes from someplace else.
Yeah.
And it's there, and they just hear it or know it.
Yeah.
And but I didn't know that was a factor, having never had an experience in the art world, to have realized that other people were sensing that. So when I found that out, I was like, oh my God, I'm one of them.
Right. So you said you dabbled a little bit in clay. So tell us, to work in the format that you were working with the sculptures, and we'll get to some of the medium of it, exactly what you've done and how you've done it. So tell us, what kind of formal training did you have in doing sculpting?
None.
None.
Absolutely none. I like the feel of clay.
I already knew that, but I had to have her tell you that.
I'm a tactile person. I always thought if I die and go to hell, there'll be a place that says don't touch. Because I touch everything. I'm very tactile. So if I'm working as a physical therapist, I'm touching bodies or massaging or feeling muscles or tendons. If I'm working as a housewife, as a mom, I'm baking or whatever, taking care of children.
Right.
I'm very tactile.
Right.
So when I started with clay, I love the feel of clay. I love the feel of mud and clay, and I always have. So I had joined a couple of sculpture or ceramic places, and I knew other people that did sculpture, and I knew I could never do that. So I would be content to make little dragons and elephants and lopsided bowls and coiled pots and all of which, put stuff on the wheel and take a paintbrush and just let it spin around. And they were really awful. But they let me play with the clay. And then when these images started, all of a sudden I was creating things. And it took me a little while to learn how to do that.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But it just all came in that way. So with the use of your hands and the way you're already used to using them, getting the sense of the detail, because you've used your hands on so many different types of surfaces
Yes.
and depths or different sized objects, whether it
Well,
be fingers,
learning the
hands,
tools.
baking, and then learning the tools. Yeah.
Learning the tools. So my work did get a little bit more detailed as the years went on. The ideas were the same. The part that if I find interesting, at least I find it interesting, it's when the ideas come to me that way. The pieces have a certain music to them. They have a certain song. They have a certain something, an essence. You see that when you see them. But if I said to myself, I'm going to make a sculpture, what can I think of? Oh, gee, I'm going to think of a person like that. And I think that this is mine. And I make them, and it looks very amateurish. It does not have that essence.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It's the difference between that other place and my head. And I can't explain that. But the pieces that there was one piece that had broken, and I repaired it, and somebody had purchased it, and it broke, and I repaired it, and it broke a second time, and I repaired it, and I said I don't want to give it back to her, so I made a duplicate, and the duplicate was very nice. I did it to the best of my ability.
Just wasn't the same.
Miles apart.
Yeah.
It would be as if somebody in another country decided to do this out of it just doesn't have the music. It's just different.
And how many have you done in total since you began?
I'm not sure, but somewhere around 50 to 60.
Okay, and that's over how long of a period of time?
About 35 years.
Over 35 years. That's still pretty good output,
Well,
considering.
there was about 10 years I put it all away.
Okay.
There was a time that I said I had enough sculptures of Holocaust memorials in my house. I don't need any more. And the kids were little. They were first growing up. I had 3 young children, and we were running around in carpools and all this other stuff. And I said, you know what? I don't need any more. I said, people in my head, I'm sorry, I'm turning you off. And I put it away for about 10 years. And then Schindler's List came out. And I did not want to see it, because I said, it's going to open that door. I've sealed that door shut. I don't want to see it. And what ended up happening was that my kids went through the Hebrew school. And I said, if they're going to see it, they're going to have questions. As a parent, I have to see it.
Right.
And I went to see the movie, and I knew in advance what would happen, and it did. The door opened up, and there they were yelling, okay, you had a rest, let's go.
Right. And off to it again.
And off to it again.
And
that
so
started-
about how many from that time, roughly?
I don't really know.
You're not sure?
I'm
Okay.
not sure, but quite a few came. And when I stopped doing them, everybody that I know that's in the art world says they spend 25% of their time on their art and 75% on promotion. I don't like to promote. It's not what I do.
Right.
So I have no problem creating them and putting them in boxes in my basement until people yell at me, no, you've got to take these out.
Right.
So I did not really promote them. But there came a time when I said, if they have to get out there in the world, and I'm not really good at this, what can we do? And I was fortunate to make a few connections that helped get a little publicity. Not too much, but a little bit.
Yeah. And then, of course, the development of the websites after that over a period of time.
Everything with this stuff has a weird story, including the website. I decided that I was going to build a website, and I went and I checked a million different places, and everything fell through. Meantime, my husband Elliot had an office in the house, and he kept getting faxes. We have great websites. We have great, and I said, "What is this hokey stuff?" And I ignored it. And every time I try one of these really good leads, it fell through, and we get another thing. We have great websites. So finally, in desperation, I hooked up with a fax that kept coming into my house over and over again.
Yeah.
Turned out it was this Jewish man that had just discovered his identity, that was living in Long Island, that fell in love with my work, that knew I did not do this for money, never made a penny on any of my sculptures. And he said, I need to do this. And he has built and maintained the website
For you.
and I have never paid him 1 cent. Not only that, but a number of years ago, he never told me, but apparently he sold the business.
Oh.
And when there was a problem with one of the areas of domain names,
Yeah,
I tried to reach
I
him, and
remember
I
when that was
couldn't reach
occurring.
him.
Yeah.
And I found out that somebody else had bought it from him and has continued to maintain it and change it and alter it and upgrade it because they feel a connection to it.
Amazing.
And just so that you don't feel bad, I've never met either one of these people either. This is all through.
Oh, this is amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
All that we just connected over the work.
Wow. By the way, the website is, and we'll print it at the end of the interview as well, www.holocaustimages.com, and there's also a .org. It's at both of those websites, and we'll list them at the end of the interview. So tell us a little bit about the medium. The basis of it is clay, but when you see these things, even in photographs that are very well done by David Lubarsky, and you can find more information about David on our website, as well as you can find more information about Diana and the links to those websites and to David as well as with his photography work in New York City.
David is my stepson.
Yes, David is her stepson. And I was going to put that in, and she beat me to it. Thank you very much. I love the way interviews go. That's the way we like them. We do them kind of informally, and they always work out better that way. So when you go there, and if you look at the pictures, I really encourage you. I know some folks who have purchased the book have loved the images, seeing them in black and white, other than the colored cover. But then we always direct people with information in the book to go to the website and to see them in color. And you can see them at Diana's website, but the photos that we have there in the book have, from the negatives, been optimized for printing and in a larger pixel format and things like that. So they even have a little more bite than they do on seeing them in a larger format is what I mean. But having seen everything in 3D has just been overwhelming. The thing that gets me the most, if we know that the basic composition is clay, well, then, of course, anybody that knows anything about sculpturing and doing certain pieces, depending on what you've done to finish them, what have you done as far as finishing them? They all have this amazing capacity for, from various angles, and depending on the intensity of light, the type of light, they take on a vibrancy and little different aspects of life, depending on the lighting. How did you accomplish that? Was that deliberate? Did that just happen after doing a couple and saying, wow, what light does to these? Or how did you come to the finishing process of the basic medium and how you've finished them off?
I had a friend who was a sculptor that used to finish products similarly, and I remembered what she was doing. And so I kind of embellished a little bit. When I finish the piece, I usually use a red clay, terracotta. And there was only one sculpture in there that I did in a white clay just to try it, and I preferred the darker green. After that, I would paint it, and I used light and dark because that symbolizes life and death.
Right,
and
contrast.
I love colors. I just love colors. So I would paint it, so certain parts would be black and other parts would be brown or blue or whatever I wanted to be the undercurrent to shine through. Then when it was painted and that was dry, I would take what they call bronzing powders and mix them with shoe polish. So you'd have bronzing powders, and I have hundreds of them, and they're all different colors, light green and dark green and several colors of gold and brown and red and all different colors. And you'd use either the oxblood or color shoe polish or the brown or the black, the different shoe color.
As your base.
And then you'd mix it together and come out with a paste. And then I'd paint it on either with my hands or with brushes and whatever, and put that on top. Then on top of that, I would add bronzing powders of the different shades of colors, a little graphite, or they'd say in Yiddish, a little chazarai, and anything from powders and graphites and whatever, till I got the finish that I really liked.
Right.
And then when it dried, buff it up.
Right.
I have several pieces which are bronze, which are not in this particular, they're not in the Florida Holocaust Museum at this time, but they're bronze. But I did the same thing. I took the pieces when they were finished, and I used the bronzing powder for patina. And the person I was working with said, I never saw anybody using bronzing powder on bronze. But again, to add that little bit of color. I like that. So I use the color for light and darkness, life and death,
Right.
all different shades.
Yeah. And the contrasts are definitely there. That light
Yeah.
darkness contrast in the looking at the pieces interpretively. I mean, you can sense those contrasts pretty clearly.
Well, you see the one at the piece called Escape.
Yes.
Now that's not in the book.
Right.
But this is a long piece, and the people in the front are heading toward life, and the
Right.
base is light,
Mm-hmm.
and the child is left in the dark,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see the symbolisms
Right.
that are
Right.
underneath
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Just wonderful. I'm going to encourage you, if you're in the St. Petersburg, Florida area between now and around the
26th,
6th or so of January, to make a trip to the Holocaust Museum here. It'll be well with it, and the exhibition is there. So tell us a little bit more about some of the future plans. We know that there are a number of pieces that are here in the permanent domain of the Holocaust Museum here in St. Petersburg, but there may be some future planning between those and some other pieces that are not yet out in public display. Tell us a little bit about what might be coming up in the future.
Well, I'm planning for the future and to keep my pieces out in the world. As I said, I do not do this to earn money. I did that professionally as a physical therapist. I do this because it's in my heart and my soul, and I have all these people in my head yelling at me saying, and that's where the title, by the way, came from.
Mm-hmm.
I had images of Holocaust, so the title of the collection became Holocaust Images, and then it became HolocaustImages.com.
Sure.
I had an exhibit at the Florida Holocaust Museum in 1999 through 2000. It was a one-year exhibit, a full gallery.
Mm-hmm.
It must have had 40 or 50 pieces.
Mm.
I don't recall exactly how many.
Mm-hmm.
And it went well. Now that I've reached the age of retirement, and carrying them around for exhibits has gotten a little bit more than I can deal with normally, I've decided to give out the collection and put it where it will be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've contacted several places. The Florida Holocaust Museum still had several people remembering the exhibit from 13 years ago, which amazed me.
Yes.
And said, "Get it over here." And they said they'd be happy to have whatever I could give them.
Mm-hmm.
So I donated 21 pieces to them. And what that means is that they're taking it out individually, periodically, to go with other displays.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first time. Every 3, 4, or 5 years they will be taken out and done a full gallery, which is what we have right now. There are a few pieces my children have requested to keep.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some others that I haven't been ready to part with yet.
Sure.
And I'm deciding what to do. The Florida Holocaust Museum has said they would like to have more if they could.
Mm-hmm.
And there are several other people that may be interested, so we will see where they end up. And
Good.
I have not given away any of the bronze sculptures yet.
I see.
And I have about 5 or 6 of those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that remains to be seen. Question.
Yeah, wonderful. So again, I would encourage you and follow the website and look for postings, if you would, also please, at our website for the book, where we directly link to Diana's website, like I said, and I do news bulletins about anything related. And so we'll obviously, any information that we get about the possibility of rotating exhibits or permanent exhibits or whatever in relation to Diana's sculptures, you'll be finding that on our website as well as at www.2lifeink.com. That's 2lifeink.com. And we'll keep you updated and informed with everything that we can, because because of the wonderful collaborative effort that was provided for us to work on this together, and her great generosity in doing what she did, and with the help of David and taking original negatives and maximizing them all for book printing and so on, which some of you will know it's a little bit different to have some pictures on a website sometimes and then to really have them optimized in a print format. And the quality of them was just so wonderful. And so both their efforts together, that's why I say this isn't just a book, it's a book written by Victor Breitberg with me as a co-author. This is a 4-person project here plus.
Yes.
This is really our book as far as I'm concerned. It's not any one of ours as far as a book is concerned. It's our project, and we've just been so blessed to be a part of this. So I'm committed to doing everything that we can, whether it's through the book or not, to just do as much as we can to up the presence of these works that are just so wonderful and amazing to see. So let me ask you this question,
Yes.
knowing that you have a few left to decide what you're going to be doing with. Are you doing any at present, or has the time come to stop making them? Or we know where it comes from. When you're told to do it, you do it, but have there been anything recently? Or
No, I more or less have stopped at this point.
okay,
I can't say it will ever end.
right.
I know that the voices are still there and the people are still there.
Mm-hmm.
We're just maintaining a truce right now. And I'm going about, and I've actually joined several writers groups, and I'm doing some writing now.
That was my next question.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm doing that. I don't know if I will do pieces, or I'm not doing them regularly, but I can't guarantee that they've stopped.
Right. Okay.
Because I know if I open that door, they'll be there saying, "Me next."
And you can get some little bits of Diana's writing. I mean, she's given on the website, there are full descriptions and even poems that are related to each of the pieces, and those were so meaningful to me that we've actually added an appendix in the book where for each of the pictures of the sculptures that we've used in the book, we've included Diana's interpretation of what those mean to her. So
now that came about because what happened was I would lead tours of wherever I was exhibiting. I would lead tours, and I would just have the pieces without any written material. And people would come up and say, "You've got to write that down. You've got to write that down." It was helpful. So after about 10 years, I said, "Okay." So the speeches that I would give about why I did them and what they meant to me. And now when the pieces travel, they travel with the poems.
They're part of the exhibit. That's good. So tell us a little bit then, as we're coming to a close, about what writing are you doing right now? What are you? I know a little bit about this, but it's okay. I'm going to tell you. What are you writing about right now?
I'm writing, as I'm getting into my senior years here, I'm writing about 6 old ladies that meet for breakfast once a week and deal with these stories about getting older. And it's sweet and salty. It's funny and it's sad and it's funny, and kind of think of like a Golden Girls kind of thing. So it's like, oh my God, they named the grandbaby what? Or my husband, he never cleans up after me, and now I tripped over his feet and I broke 2 toes, and let's throw them all out. So it's the women complaining about the men, about getting older, about the aches and pains, about don't worry about this, we'll manage over here, or this ride that used to take an hour and a half, now we did it great, but it took us 3 hours and everybody was behind us honking the horn. So they're funny, they're real life stories, and it's just like the sculpture in a different way. It's the last one. There's very short vignettes, maybe anywhere from 1 to 3 pages. And this last one I wrote was about this lady that figured out that she no longer could hop. She wanted to show her grandchildren how to play hopscotch, get them away from their iPads, and she was practicing, and she realized, she said, "Oh my God, I've lost my hop."
Oh, I lost my hop.
So they're again real life, but it's about getting older and dealing with the things that people don't talk about.
Yeah, sounds very good.
Thank you.
Well, we're wishing you all success for that.
Thank you
as
so
well.
much.
And
it's been a pleasure.
Oh, this has been just a wonderful and exquisite time, and a pleasure and a joy. I'm so grateful for this time together, and for other things we'll just be talking, and we'll be keeping it up, and we won't be losing contact.
No.
And so for those of you out there who will listen to this interview and take the time, thank you for doing so.
Thank you.
And please visit the website, see more of the works and what we're able to provide in the book and at our website. Follow the links. You won't be sorry. And again, if you're in the St. Petersburg area from now until near the end of January, around the 25th,
please stop by.
Yes, please make a stop at the Holocaust Museum here in St. Petersburg. You won't. And the other exhibits that are here are very good as well. All right. I mean, the whole first floor is kind of like a mini United States Holocaust Museum package. If you've ever been there, it's very moving. There's a lot here.
A lot of things.
Second floor is the art exhibits, and Diana's is there, as well as another one, which is just fascinating. And right, that's the word. Works of knitting and life stories in a very different medium, and all based on true events. I don't want to say the woman's name in case I mispronounce it, so you can check that out. The website, however, for the St. Petersburg Holocaust Museum, I highly would recommend you come and see both of these exhibits. So again, thank you so much for being with us, and Diana, thank you so much for this time together.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.